but that seems to be where Celtic are at the moment. Even when you listen to Martin O'Neill's interview post-match yesterday,
That
and
was worrying for me, Scott. I'm glad you brought it up. I think he looks exasperated.
yeah, I agree. He looks also, exasperated, a good word. I mean, bemused as well as to what's actually going on above him. And look, we all love Martin O'Neill, and he's great, great character. But he's kind of trying to make light of the situation. He's trying to make kind of wisecracks, almost taking a soften the blow for Celtic fans. But in a way, it's making it worse because it is becoming a laughing stock now. And I mean, they have to get guys in. We know that. We've discussed it so often on here. We obviously know he was at Fir Park watching Motherwell's last game with Mark Fotheringham. No, you'd be amazed if it's no Maswanisi they're looking at. Whether that's an option for them, I'm not sure. I mean, he's not an out-and-out striker. Maswanisi can play through the middle, but I would suggest he's maybe more suited to a wide position, making those runs in field. But as I said on here last week, Celtic being in this state of flux that they're in at the moment, I think they have to look on their own doorstep for players, guys that they know can come in. That's why I said on here last week about Kieran Bowie. I don't understand why Celtic aren't going in, with the money they've got in the bank, and just going and bidding whatever it's going to take to get Kieran Bowie to Parkhead. I think his profile, his age, the form he's in, to me it's a no-brainer for Celtic in this current situation where it seems as if there's no recruitment strategy, there's no sporting director, there's no guy organising it all, looking at players. Martin O'Neill said himself, it's literally just guys handing him names and making him watch clips. If that's the length you're having to go and get somebody who's on your doorstep who you pretty much guaranteed they will score goals. And I put Bowie and probably Maswanisi into that category. So I wouldn't be surprised if the longer the window goes, those two names come up again, because you're right, as you said at the start, it's getting beyond a joke now.
Well, the problem for me here, Scott, is, and I did see you, it was easy to listen. I'm not saying that I'm seeing something that nobody else is. Anybody that looked at Martin O'Neill's kind of interviews and the press conference after the game last night, maybe even ahead of it, can see a kind of shift in his demeanour, I think. And I said previously that, this wasn't going to be the sort of same as the first interim period, which was like a sepia toned walk down memory lane, lap of honour, whatever you want to call it, just to come in and hold the fort for a while. Martin O'Neill, from now until May, is Celtic's manager. He's Celtic's head of recruitment. He's Celtic's chief scout. He's the guy that's fronting up, in terms of PR. How many jobs do you want to give a 73-year-old man?
That's what I was going. That's not right, Jacko. I mean,
it's extraordinary. But what would concern me is just say Martin O'Neill. And by the way, it's not as if he's starting out in the game. It's not as if he needs this. I'm sure he wants to, and he's desperate to do what he feels is in Celtic's best interest, to because out of a sense of duty. I'm not sure how often you can keep poking the guy in the ribs and expecting him just to do all these jobs. What would happen if Martin O'Neill turns around tomorrow and says, do you know what, guys? Ram it. You're not helping. I'm getting no help. I'm the guy that ultimately has to go out here and carry the can for this. You're not helping. You're not backing me up. You've not got your ducks in a row. Here we are, 19th of January. You still haven't even looked like delivering me a striker. And I did say, it was over a week ago now, Dan, you were questioning the transfer window, and I said, first things first, Daniel, you would say, in normal circumstances, there's 3 weeks of the window still to go. Mm-hmm. Calm down. Sit down, calm down. Here we are, but I had the sort of rider to that, but this is Celtic, and I was saying similar stuff towards the end of the summer window, and look how that turned out. So it was already a concern when there was still 3 weeks to go. And here we are, what is it, 19th of January?
Yep.
Less than a fortnight. It's becoming a real cause for concern. And by the way, that's before we even take account of the fact that Celtic have to go to Tynecastle in just a few days from now for a game of potentially enormous significance in terms of this year's title. It's astonishingly poor.
It almost feels disrespectful, I think, towards Martin.
Scott, I agree.
It's probably the first time I thought about it watching the Auchinleck game. Seeing him standing in that dugout at Rugby Park, and I know we're in different times. Obviously, we get that, different finances, etc. But I'm looking and thinking, this is a guy that's watched Henrik Larsson, Chris Sutton, Lubo Moravchik, Stan Petrov, and even when he's working down south, at Villa and stuff like that, the top players, Republic Island manager, he's standing there yesterday watching, with all due respect, Johnny Kenny and Balikwisha, struggling to beat Auchinleck, struggling to beat a part-time team in the Scottish Cup. And that's what I mean, just with you think of the board and the owners and that. No, they owe it to him. He's dug them out a hole by taking this.
Absolutely correct.
They're lucky. They should think themselves fortunate that they've got a guy, he has status and has stand in the game, has experience, that he can come in on an interim basis. We've seen earlier on the season when Rangers get rid of Russell Martin, they didn't really have anybody to turn to Martin O'Neill. It was Stephen Smith for a game. Another game that Rangers drop points before they get Danny Rowe in the door. And that's not a slight on Stevie Smith at all, but that was the predicament they were in. Celtic are lucky to have a guy like O'Neill who can come in. But as you said, Jacko, to put him out there every week, and bear in mind he's doing 2 or 3 press conferences a week at the minute because of the schedule of the games and stuff. To put him up like that and have to answer these constant questions about recruitment and the lack of bodies coming in, and specifically the lack of a striker to help them, I think it is now bordering on disrespect.
It's a brass neck.